Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Tonight, Arizona Senators Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego join us in studio to discuss the issues of the day, and there is no shortage of issues facing the country. We begin by welcoming Senator Mark Kelly to Arizona Horizon. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ted.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. I'm trying to get a measure. We're far away here, and we see the headlines. We report on the headlines, but we're across the country. Is it as chaotic as it seems inside the Beltway?
I think it's a lot different than it was during my first 4 years in the United States Senate. We've got a new administration since January 20th. We're less than 100 days in. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of uncertainty, economic uncertainty, uncertainty with our relationships with other countries, Canada, our European allies, even uncertainty with our relationships with adversaries. But I really worry about the relationships that we have spent decades building across the globe and how this administration, the Trump administration, has treated our friends.
Yeah, and in bright lights is the war in Ukraine. And today, speaking of issues of the day, Ukraine basically said no to the U.S. proposal to end the war. That U.S. proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, that seems like it's the Russian proposal, is it not?
Well, that's what happens when you give up leverage before the negotiations started. And if you go back a couple months when President Zelensky met in the Oval Office with President Trump, with the Vice President, Secretary of State, that was a time where they gave up two big, really sticking points there, and it was NATO membership and land, essentially, and Crimea was part of this. Mm-hmm. Crimea was traditionally part of Ukraine, and all that Donbass and Luhansk territory, that is part of Ukraine. Those two negotiating points were given up before the negotiations started. So at this point, the administration is kind of leaning on the side of what the Russian plan for a ceasefire is. That is not in our best interest as a country. We cannot come out of this where Vladimir Putin, who is now a war criminal, where Vladimir Putin thinks that this was a good idea to invade Ukraine.
And yet, that position was very strong among Republicans in GOP circles for years. It is not strong now. What happened?
Well, it shows the influence of this president on the Republican Party. And right now, he's very effective at getting Republicans in the House and Senate to get in line. What we need to get this back on track is for my Republican colleagues, especially in the Senate, to get off the sidelines, to get out of that line. Don't fall in line behind the president. Fall in line behind what is right for our country and our national security and the national security of our allies.
Are you hearing from your Republican fellow senators there, are you hearing behind the scenes, under the microphones, that sentiment, but they're afraid to say something? We heard Lisa Murkowski, I believe we heard her basically say that she's afraid, and other Republicans are afraid. You hearing that?
Yes. I mean, you hear different things in private than you see in public. I think that's true for everybody in this business. They're in a challenging position. But what I think what they need to be doing is thinking long-term and big picture. Donald Trump is not going to be on the scene forever. He's got limited time in this term. He talks about a third term in office. That's not a realistic thing for him. I think he says this just to get controversy out there. They need to think about what's in the best interest of our nation next year, next decade, over the decades to come. And the policies, especially with regards to our national security and our relationship with other allies, is that the Trump administration, in my view, is flawed.
Okay, what happens if the U.S. abandons Ukraine?
Well, I think we'll see how much the Europeans can step in to support them. They certainly can do more. I think they will do more. But without our support, without our leadership, without us rallying our allies in support of this ally, Ukraine, ultimately, I think the chance of Russia being successful is much, much higher without our support.
And last question on this. Why does it seem as though the president constantly and repeatedly and consistently leans toward Russia, not just on this issue, but in other issues? What's going on there?
Well, Ted, I think that's the big question. And I think that's something that maybe we'll never know. But he does seem to have this affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way that I just don't understand. You know, Putin is a dictator. He's an authoritarian. He's a murderer. And he is always going to make decisions that are not in the best interests of the United States and our allies. I wish the president would understand that. He does not seem to.
All of this as the Defense Department, the U.S. Defense Department, appears to be in turmoil. Your thoughts on what's happening there? Secretary of Defense, goodness gracious, these signal chats, all of this, the whole 9 yards. What are your thoughts?
Well, right before his confirmation vote, where it was unclear whether he had the votes or not, I said to my Republican colleagues, I said, are you sure? Are you sure you want to put this guy in this job? This is one of the most complicated jobs on the planet. And no offense, Ted, to journalists and journalism. You guys play a very important role. But 9 years as a Saturday morning host on Fox News does not prepare you to run one of the most complicated enterprises in the world with millions of employees and hundreds of billions of dollars and $850 billion budget. He is ill-equipped, and he has proven that over the last 3 months.
And yet we're hearing from Republicans on Capitol Hill that this is a media creation here, that the strikes in Yemen, which the signal chants we're talking about here, the strikes in Yemen were successful, that morale in the military is up, and that recruitment is up. And those are things that we as journalists should be concentrating on.
Well, let's talk about those strikes. So I used to fly strikes off of an aircraft carrier. The first Gulf War, I flew 39 combat missions over Iraq and Kuwait. There was no world would have ever occurred to me that the Secretary of Defense was going to let people know on an unsecured system what my launch time was, what my time on target was, what platform I was flying, what weapon systems were going to be deployed on that strike. That is not something anybody would ever expect to happen. They say this was not classified information, or it's not a war plan. Mm-hmm. This is the most sensitive information we have. When are we sending troops over the beach? When are we sending them on a mission? There is nothing that we try to keep more closely held than that. And he put it on an unsecured system. He did it more than once. He did it with people that did not have security clearances. I don't believe his wife has a security clearance. Who did she then share this information with? In this case, we got lucky. We really got lucky that information did not leak to the Russians or was accessed off of somebody's phone, their personal phone, from the Russians, got transmitted to the Iranians, and then to the Houthis. Sure, the mission was a success. Give that credit to the United States Navy, to those pilots. But those pilots, that mission was riskier because of the actions of the Secretary of Defense, and he should resign because he is not prepared to do this job.
All that being said, the president apparently and reportedly likes Secretary Hegseth's pluck. He likes the fact that he's changing things. He likes the fact that he's rearranging what some see as a bloated and ineffective military.
I think what he really likes is the guy's good on TV. That's why he hired him. He spent a lot of time on TV. You see this in this administration. A lot of the top folks have some connection, whether it's Dr. Oz or others. They have a background in media. They do not have, in many cases, they do not have the necessary leadership skills and the background to do the jobs that they're assigned.
What are you hearing in military circles about all this?
Well, it's rather chaotic at the Defense Department because of the person who's in charge. And we see General Hawk as an example, the head of the NSA, incredibly qualified guy who had strong bipartisan support, was just fired because an internet troll comes into the Oval Office and says you should fire this guy. The head of Cyber Command and the National Security Agency gets fired because of some civilian who doesn't seem to like some things that he has done in his past. He was an incredibly effective leader.
But again, my question is, obviously you see this a certain way, and others see this a certain way, no doubt in the military. But the military as a whole, do they agree with you, or do they see this as, show me the mission, I'll get the job done, doesn't matter who the Secretary of Defense is?
Well, I think it matters who the Secretary of Defense is to members of the military. They need to have confidence in the person's leadership. And I'm not saying everybody has lost confidence in him. You know, folks in the military, they're real people, right? They vote, they've got political opinions. He certainly does still have supporters in the military. But I'll tell you this, there are now Republicans in the United States Congress that are calling for him to resign or be fired.
Yes, interesting. Tariffs, again, news of the day. The president seems to be backing off a little bit as far as the tariffs against China. This is a whiplash policy, economic policy at best, and yet supporters of the president will say there's a reason for that. This is his way of negotiating a deal, and other countries are stepping up and they're ready to make a deal. What say you?
Well, he just negotiated millions of Americans out of trillions of dollars. He destroyed a significant amount of wealth that was in our economy that just evaporated because he doesn't have a good plan. His tariff plan comes from Peter Navarro because Peter Navarro wrote a book, has a made-up economist in the book. I can't find any economists or respected business leaders that say that Donald Trump's tariff plan is a good plan that's going to help our economy. And so far, all it has done is a lot of damage. Now, I support targeted tariffs when they make sense to solve specific problems. That's not this. And on top of it, he's changing his mind almost daily. 145% on China, 25% on Mexico. No, we'll make it 10%. Now we'll suspend it for 10 days. Now we'll suspend it for 90 days. Tariffs back on, it's back off. If you're a business leader, I was at a company called Benchmark today that makes a lot of components for our defense and aerospace industry. That's their biggest concern, is that this is so unpredictable. The same thing down in Nogales on Monday. They can't plan. They can't decide what they're going to charge their customer when they don't know if the tariff is going to be 20% or 145%, or if it's going to be suspended for another 90 days, or it's going to go away completely.
Last question, real quickly. For those of us here in Arizona watching, seeing all of this unfolding in Washington, what is your message?
Get involved. I mean, these things matter. They matter to you. Tariffs are going to raise costs for your family. Prices are going to go up unless these tariffs go away. Encourage the president to get rid of them, to start over again, and have real trade negotiations with our allies and with countries that we typically think of our adversaries, but are also big trading partners. Have real negotiations. Don't kind of randomly, throw tariffs at 100-something countries. We've never done anything like this before. And if you look back in history, it's really easy to put tariffs on. It's a lot harder to get them to come off. And tariffs are paid by the American people, by taxpayers. I don't care what the president says that this foreign country is paying these tariffs. That is not true. They are paid here in the United States, and the cost gets passed on to the American consumer. So get involved, speak out.
Senator Mark Kelly, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ted.